Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. We'll call to meeting the order, excuse me, we'll call to order the meeting of the Auburn Common Council. Begin with a moment of silent meditation or reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to roll call. Councilman Fincham.
Here.
Councilman Braun.
Here.
Councilman Webb.
Here.
Councilwoman DeWitt.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Councilman Bundy.
Here.
Councilwoman Prosser.
Here.
Council, in front of you, you have the meeting minutes from the April 1st regular meeting.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to approve the meeting minutes as presented. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Recognition of visitors, Mike Littlejohn, Andy Barron, Greg Balsano, Bodie DeWitt, Ada DeWitt, Shelley Smaltz, Jeff Jones, welcome. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address the council? Anyone in the public that would like to address the council? Hearing none, we'll move on. We have Greg Balsano with Baker Tilly to do our annual TIF management report presentation.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. My name is Greg Balsano with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. I work with Eric Walsh and Jason Semler at our firm, and I specifically help with kind of economic development TIF, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So we help the Redevelopment Commission with some of their annual reporting requirements, and one of those is the TIF management or April 15th report. That was due today and has been submitted on the Gateway portal, and that will go out to the public's viewing once the DLGF releases that information. And this is an annual requirement that's been on for some time for all redevelopment commissions. But just last year, it was made a requirement that it has to be presented to the council as well. And so we were here last year to present this information. And this is just a reflection of the prior year data. So this is purely looking at 2024. At next month's the Plan is RDC meeting, we'll look more ahead. We'll do the annual TIF presentation requirement where we're kind of estimating revenues, doing more future forecasting and things like that. So again, today's report is purely focused on 2024 information. And I'm happy to answer any information as we go through here. So slide 2 here shows the annual reporting requirements that I mentioned. This is the TIF management report that was due to Gateway, the mayor, the council, the RDC, the DLGF. On or before April 15th. The next step will be the pass-through determination that occurs through the Redevelopment Commission. TIF neutralizations, where we help the county auditor's office neutralize the base value. The RDC spending plan is due by December 1st of each year. That started last year. And then lastly, as I mentioned, sometime during the calendar year, you are required to hold, the Redevelopment Commission is required to hold an annual presentation to all of the overlapping units in the public, explaining its TIF, looking ahead, things like that. In 2024, the members you can see here that are listed for the Redevelopment Commission, anywhere from the president to the non-voting member. So a Redevelopment Commission in Indiana is required to have 5 members and 1 non-voting school board member. So throughout Redevelopment Commissions, you'll see a total of six members on that board. And these were the members as of 12/31/2024. So kind of going through your TIF allocation areas, as we sit here today, we have the Northwest Economic Development Area. So when you hear economic development area, think of that's where the RDC and city can spend money. So in serving or benefiting that economic development area. The allocation area is a smaller boundary or the same or coterminous where the money is actually generated. So the parcels in that allocation area make up the TIF revenue that the RDC receives that it can then spend in that economic development area to incur future economic development. The Northwest Economic Development Area has a few pieces. So it has the original portion established in 2001, right at the end there, and will expire in 2031. The 2008 expansion will be gone in 2038. And the 2020 expansion, you can see there is no expiration set. And the reason for that is at the time this area was created and where the law sits currently, it exists 25 years from the date any debt is issued. So a TIF area stays until debt is issued, and then it has a 25-year clock from that point in time. The other areas had 30-year lives because that was the statute at that time period. So that was a requirement that could not go longer than 30 years no matter what. Then you can see here we have two other allocation areas, the Auburn Crossing allocation area, which is a part of the Northwest Economic Development Area. That was done back in 2023. And then the West Side Development allocation area, that is a new allocation area that was done in 2024. And so that one did not exist during 24. It will start in pay 2025. That will be the base year for that allocation area. Slide 5 shows the revenues and expenditures as of 12/31/24. So you could see that a total of revenues of about $2.72 million with expenditures of $4.4 million. And we'll kind of get into the detail of those here. The bottom lists some of the grants and loans that were provided that are in that expenditure line. So you could see some various kind of facade grants here for Bowers Engineering, Crickett's 7th Street Bar and Grill, Klein's Brown House, the Siegel Group LLC, and Barron's Automotive, totaling $44,061.36. The next slide goes into detail of how that 4.4 million was spent. So you could see here the various infrastructure improvements. That first line there, that little over 1.5 million, is mostly on the John Ketchum Drain reconstruction. That was a significant majority of that number. We talked about those facade grants. You also had professional services for things like municipal advisor, our fees, lawyer fees, engineering fees that are in those amounts. And then the last thing is the payments of bonds and other debt and principal. So there was a $1.5 million bond payment that ended the Auburn Crossing bonds that were issued. So that was issued in an amount of $3 million. The final $1.5 million was paid in February of 2024. So that bond no longer exists. That is matured, but that is 1.5 million of that 2.7 million number. The rest of that is mostly some memorandums of understanding with Marketplace Infrastructure, 715 properties. That makes up the remainder of that amount. So again, that 1.5 million that I mentioned, was done in 24. You won't see that expense happen again in 25 going forward. Some fund balances here. You can see that in the TIF at the end, after those expenses, you have about $4.2 million of available. That was at the end of 24. And then the next slides just talk about there was no TIF given to other units or for housing areas at this time in 24. And then the last slide goes into that debt payment that I mentioned. So this was paid off in February. As you can see, there's nothing left remaining. And then that concludes the presentation. In your packet, I believe you also have the parcel list that were done. And these are the parcels that existed during 2024 in those allocation areas. So that is a list of the taxpayer names, the parcel numbers, the gross assessed values, the net, et cetera, that was during 2024. So for the area that captured value, the Northwest Economic Development Area, there was about $100.2 million of assessed value that was captured, and that helped generate your almost $2.7 million of revenue. So again, think of that value multiplied by the tax rate is what generates the TIF money. That incremental assessed value, the reason it's called increment is because it's the current net assessed value over and above what the assessed value was at the time that TIF was created. And in 2025, just kind of a preview, you should start seeing money from the Auburn Crossing allocation area. This will be the first year that area is eligible to capture value. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions. This information, we worked with Lori and was able to get that submitted onto the DLGF site, so it will be available for public consumption once DLGF releases all those reports.
I just would like to say great job to redevelopment, because if I'm not mistaken, the 24 budget was just over 5 million. So yeah, I know that looks like a large number, but they actually came in about 700,000 under last year.
Thanks so much.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. Clerk Treasurer.
Good evening. I have the current vouchers for $5,314,654.44.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the vouchers. Any questions or discussion?
I'll abstain from 94648 in the amount of 3362 as my place of employment.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I also have the February's bank reconciliation is complete and on the website for your review. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions.
Ordinance number 2025-7, ordinance amending Chapter 57 entitled Public Purchases of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. Summary. This ordinance amends and restates Chapter 57 entitled Public Purchases of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. I move that we pass ordinance number 2025-7 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-07. Any questions or discussion?
I do have a question. On the rewrite, I better look at my copy with the cross-offs. I think it's like the 6th paragraph down where we mention the contract signed. Purchases under 50,000 shall require approval of the Board of Works for public safety only if a signature is required to complete the purchase. I just was wondering, it's just a little vague to me on like, where is it signature on a contract or what's the requirement for a signature or not a signature, I guess is.
That's generally those things under 50,000 don't always have to come to Board of Works. So it's just making it clear, especially to department heads and employees, that regardless of the dollar amount, if a signature is required, it must go to Board of Works. And I don't know. We kind of talked this through. I don't know what requires and what doesn't, but it's really just to make it clear that a department head isn't allowed to sign on that on their own. If they can go on a website and just, place an order with a PO number, all that sort of thing, they can do that. But if it's something that requires a contract signed or an invoice signed or whatever that thing is, they have to go to Board of Works.
Yeah, the previous policy did not state that. It was just anything under 50,000 was the department head's discretion. But I will say they've been very diligent about bringing those contracts or quotes to Board of Works on the first and third Tuesdays to have them signed.
I think you guys all understand what you're saying here, but are we going to understand this in 6 or 8 years when we have new people involved? And I don't want to change it really. I just wanted clarification on how this was working, and I appreciate doing this because it obviously needed some changing. And I'll put my comments towards 2508. Same thing. There's an area that we needed to look at that. We need to change that to get it in tune with what we're doing today. And I've been kind of a pro 10-year sunset clause on some of these policies and stuff. If you don't, if they go 20 years and everybody goes, I don't know when that was enacted and I don't understand why we're doing it this way and the ordinance says that. So I'm glad we're doing this. I just wanted a little clarification on that signing of the contract. So.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance number 2025-8, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 entitled Executive, Judicial, and Administrative Offices of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. Summary. This ordinance amends and restates Chapter 30 entitled Executive, Judicial, and Administrative Offices
of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. I move that we pass ordinance number 2025-8 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-08. Any questions or discussion?
I just want to make a clarification. I talked to Zach about this yesterday. I just want to make sure this is something that we're already been doing. Everything that we're adding to this ordinance has already existed in essence, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. We're just getting it written down so it's documented.
Correct.
Is one of the questions that came up is who's the purchasing agent? So we wanted to clear that up, and then we listed designees that the Board of Works will allow to sign. If it's anyone other than the four that are listed, then the Board of Works would have to designate in writing. So any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to reports. Nothing at this time from the mayor.
No report.
Plan Commission.
Yes, we had a meeting last Tuesday, and one of the items on the agenda was they are looking to do the sixth update or sixth amendment to the UDO. So there will be a UDO subcommittee meeting on April 23rd. That's next Wednesday. There's like 4 members of the Plan Commission on there, as well as BPD, and we're going to kind of go through those. Eventually, that'll make its way here. It'll go back to the Plan Commission first. There'll be a public hearing there. It's just small modifications. Year after year, they see things that need to be tweaked. They make a list of it, and then annually we do an update. So that's what we can expect. Probably about a month and a half, 2 months down the road, that'll be coming before us. But that was about the main thing that was on the agenda. They did say that there is more things in the hopper now. They've had some permits and things put in, so we should have more activity of growth. We had a couple months where we didn't meet, so it looks like it's going to be picking up as well.
Moving on to committees.
Nothing,
Go ahead.
nothing for tax phase in.
Ordinance and Resolution Committee, we do need to have a meeting. The administration is looking at working on the property maintenance code. And Jim Catterat of the Building Planning Development Department has been doing some work with trying to rework what we have. He's kind of implementing another older code that he used to use at another place of business and tweaking it toward our needs here in Auburn. So if possible, committee members, and I'm going to have to verify with Jim and Ryan from the BPD to make sure they're available on this date too. Prior to the next meeting on May the 6th at 5 p.m., would we be able to hold, at least for the committee members, a meeting at 5 p.m. on May 6th?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Hold until I check with Jim and, okay, I will. I'll get back. And we've got a couple weeks. We've got an extra week this month. So, okay. Thank you.
And we can make sure we get that out to everyone as well. I believe they're ready. Is that correct, Zach?
Yeah. I believe so.
Finance Committee met last week. If you missed it, it is on the live stream YouTube channel.
And you mind if I add to that a little
Go
bit?
ahead.
Eric Walsh from Baker Tilly was here last Wednesday for Finance Committee. He did stay all afternoon. We made some good progress through our CIPs for the next 4 years. So I believe he will be back. I think it's May 8th, where we'll be meeting with the department heads one-on-one. So hopefully finalize each of the CIPs and be ready to submit those to the Finance Committee meeting at the next meeting. So, is there any unfinished business to come before the council? Any new business? General good and welfare of the community? I believe the farmer's market begins 2 weeks, which will be on 9th Street on Wednesday mornings. And then Saturday, they'll continue to have it over here in the county lot. So a lot of people will be excited for that.
35 vendors so far.
That's
Yeah.
great. Is that a record? It's got to be close.
I don't know if it's a record, but it's close.
Yeah.
I mean, for this time of year.
Great. Next regular council meeting is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025 at 6 p.m.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Like Jeopardy, you gotta wait till the question.